Hi there, Will here, and today I am potentially the first person on the continent of Africa to have received the new Pentax 17. And the first thing I could figure to do with it was to pick up a disposable so that I could compare the two, because in my mind, most people who are shooting these are going to want to move to one of these, and I guess it's worth testing them out and seeing what the difference is. Before we get going, a big thank you to Cape Film Supply and Skiet Cameras for lending me the camera and giving me the film for this video. I'm under no obligation to say anything good about the camera. I'm not receiving the camera as a reward for getting to try it out in this video. To be honest, I think they just asked me because they knew I might have a passing curiosity. And I do, but came to realize very quickly that this camera doesn't necessarily fit in the normal vein of my practice. So I decided to take it around a more touristic side of Cape Town than I might necessarily otherwise do in a video. So for that reason, please join me in seeing some touristy Cape Town scenes after my friend Kent and I go on a little forest adventure in the morning. Oh, right, and you'll notice in the very beginning I have it set to ISO 3200. That was only for the first 2 frames, and then I realized that something was amiss, but the first 2 frames are going to be a little bit underexposed. In terms of loading it, you chuck a roll of film in, make sure it's in the right position, close it up, and it looks like it's working. As long as that thing's moving with this, you're good to go. Okay, and then the disposable, obviously, is a disposable. Comes in all sorts of lovely plastic packaging. You take it out, wind it on, and you're ready to shoot. I've decided to tag along with my friend Kent Andresen for a couple of his infrared pictures this morning, so maybe I'll make a diptych of him making an infrared picture. This disposable smells funny. Smells like crushed dreams. No one knew what Kent looked like.
Until now.
Nice.
Get it?
Yep.
Yeah, I need to go back. There you go.
Let's go catch up to Kent before he leaves us alone in the forest. What do you think this means? Why don't you want to take the picture, mate? If you don't mind, I'm going to take the real artistic picture here real quick. Oh dear. I thought it was saying, it was flashing these 2 lights, and I was like, okay, it's because it doesn't think there's enough light. It was actually because I hadn't advanced it, which, you know, I'm a professional, mate. Stonks.
Look at you.
You may be thinking to yourself, why on earth is he comparing this fancy, expensive, brand new camera to a disposable? There are a couple of reasons. I'll go over the majority of them after we've gone through all the adventuring and picture making, but to touch on it, a disposable is basically the only other mass market camera that's still made new to this day, and that's, so far as I can tell, what the Pentax 17 is trying to capitalize on. So to me, it made the most sense to compare those two. Anyway, I'll talk about it more in depth in a little bit after I've shown you some touristy Cape Town scenes.
This place is very hashtag film photography, which is why it's the perfect spot to try out this camera. probably the most hashtag film photography place in all of Cape Town. Which is why I really don't like coming here. That, and it actually does have the capacity to be quite a dangerous place. But you know, if we want the hashtag film photography vibes, we gotta go to the hashtag film photography places. Hashtag film photography. I'm a tourist. I don't know that people get mugged here. Wow, it's so scenic. I mean, it is cool in like its old school sort of way. It's just not really anything I have any particularly large interest in photographing properly. Has also been photographed about 6 million times, but luckily I've got about 6 million pictures to make here with this camera, so it's kind of growing on me, this place. The more pictures I make of things I don't want to photograph, the more I want to photograph new things. I mean, there is something about it. I kind of understand why people come and photograph this relentlessly, but not really for me. I'm just a tourist in Cape Town, doing touristy things. Please don't mug me. Smug seal. I had a plan. It was a pretty good plan, if you ask me, to take Chapman's Peak to get back to Cape Town, catch the sunset, go around the coastal way, but unfortunately we've had big storms and I didn't really take that into account, so the pass is closed because it's probably been washed away. Llandudno. There's a lot of people surfing down there. Obligatory car portrait. And for our diptych, let's continue on and see if there's another couple of cool sunset landscapes. I really hope you can appreciate the length I've gone to be as basic as possible with my choice and subject matter for this camera. This is, what is this? Odachrol. Pretty place. Worth a picture. Why don't we do this? I think I've got like at least 2 frames left, so we'll do one where it's a picture of the thing on the side of the road, the bollard, and one where it's lion's head. Yep, that was it. That's the end. GG's.
So what do you think? Did the half frame perform better or the disposable? To be honest, the reason I even compared this camera to a disposable in the first place was because I didn't want to come at this video from the perspective of working professional photographer and lighting assistant. Well, I wanted to come at it from the perspective of someone who had a vested interest in enjoying this camera, you know, someone who had been shooting a disposable up until this point, which is the way I tried to think about it for the duration of my time with it and in looking at the photos in post. And to be honest, it does do better than a disposable most of the time. Not that that's a particularly high bar, but it's a lot sharper, you get double the amount of frames, and it's a cool little camera. There are scenarios, to be honest, in which the disposable looks better. Mainly scenarios where the fact that the disposable is limited in terms of its settings is actually to its benefit, like in the forest, for example, because it's only shooting at 1 shutter speed and aperture and focal distance, and what that means is in certain scenarios it'll overexpose, and in the forest it exposed for the shadows as opposed to the highlights, which the Pentax 17 exposed for, and it ended up doing better for it. Overall, the Pentax 17 is a better camera. I mean, I don't think there was doubt in anyone's mind about that, but the caveat to that is, it is a bit more hands-on than a disposable would be, which almost doesn't make sense to me because, so far as I can understand, the target market for this camera is people who are shooting disposables and want to move on to something more economical and fancy, I guess. And it goes a bit too far for that, in my opinion. You know, like, why not just have a camera that had autofocus and auto exposure and leave it at that? The fact that it sort of exists in a space in between something fully automated and something that an enthusiast film photographer might enjoy is kind of a downside for it, really, because the enthusiasts are not really particularly happy with it because it's not enthusiastic enough. And I don't know, I don't speak really to that many people who mainly shoot disposables, but I'm sure they, in this case being me, would be bummed about the fact that there are scenarios where the disposable still looks better. The majority of the things in this camera are sort of fighting against each other in some sort of weird way like that, you know? It almost comes across in the way it's been designed too, because it's got like 16 different textures on it for some reason. And each of them individually, if they'd been transferred into an overarching theme, would have been cool, you know, like square texture on the grip or the diamond texture on the back. If that was a theme across the board, that would have been cool, but for some reason it's got leatherette, diamond, square on the side, silver magnesium, you know, and the functionality of it feels that way as well. To give an example, something I didn't even realize while I was shooting it, but came to realize when I was standing at the lab having the roll developed, because I was scrolling through Reddit, is the fact that if you shoot this camera in auto mode, it completely overrides the zone focus settings on the lens, and that just doesn't make any sense, because I mean, if they're hardwired, like physical settings on the lens, you shouldn't be able to override them, which I don't see the purpose of anyway, by having it in auto mode. So to clarify, just in case this hasn't come across, if you have a Pentax 17 set in auto mode, then nothing you do to the lens at the front is going to impact the focus. I can show you this. If I've got it in auto, and I point it somewhere to focus, the lens will do a little jiggle, which is what confused me because I assumed that jiggle was it actually focusing when I was working with it, but it won't actually change anywhere beyond the landscape setting it's in. I think 0.6 to infinity is where it's focusing in auto mode. However, if you change it to P and set it on close focus, then it'll actually move the lens forward and focus. And I didn't understand this because there's no realm of understanding in which that would make sense to me, you know? I mean, it's hardwired. It's on the lens there. Why would anything that I change over here adjust my focus when the focus is on the lens? It doesn't make sense, you know? And that's my frustration with this camera, is basically everything about it feels like it's fighting against itself. Anyway, it is a nice camera. I enjoyed my time with it. The main thing I got out of it is the fact that I actually really enjoy half-frame cameras. My friends have been suggesting to me for some time now that I try one out. And after trying this one out, I like the whole diptych process. I like the immense grain that shooting half-frame gives me. So I'm probably going to pick up something like an Olympus Pen FT because it's 16 times the camera this one is at a much lower price. And that's what makes it weird, you know, that they decided to go this way with the camera. Overall, I think it's excellent for the film photography community that there's a new camera in the year 2024. I think it's awesome that you can go out, buy it, have a warranty, and assumably infinite repairability for the next little while. I think that's great, and if that's the way that you want to go with buying a new film camera, more power to you. It definitely isn't the right fit for me. Might not even be the right fit for Disposable, Will, but I'm glad it exists. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. A big thank you, as always, to the members of my Buy Me a Coffee for supporting this channel. And I'll see you in the very near future, hopefully for the greatest photographic exploit I've ever gone on in my life, because the road trip I went on recently resulted in some really nice photographs and a grand adventure that I look forward to sharing with you. Until then.